esta tercera mesa redonda del día de hoy, de la jornada de hoy, sobre los retos y desafíos de las nuevas tecnologías en África. Aunque ya me presenté antes, voy a aprovechar la ocasión para hacerlo de nuevo. Mi nombre es Patricia Fraile y soy la gerente del Clúster de empresas tecnológicas de Canarias Excelencia Tecnológica. Y con nosotros en la mesa, para hablar de este tema, estará un representante de, Tsietsi Maleho. I hope I say the name fine. Okay. Él es el director general de Innovation Hub Management Company en Sudáfrica. Tenemos a Nilda Silva, coordinadora de la Red Nacional de Incubadoras de Cabo Verde. Y a Kirui Kennedy, presidente del iHub de Kenia. Y para no perder tiempo, porque como antes ya el director general de Casa África nos hizo una introducción bastante extensiva de cada uno de estos tech hubs, le voy a pasar la palabra a Tsietsi Maleho para que nos cuente un poco en qué consiste The Innovation Hub y así como la situación en Sudáfrica, que creo que es el único país del que no hemos escuchado nada esta mañana.
Can I start? Thank you very much for the opportunity. What I'm going to do is I'll start first by giving some background to the province of Gauteng, where I come from, or where the Innovation Hub is located. South Africa has about 9 provinces. The specific province I'm going to talk about is the province of Gauteng. Gauteng means gold. It's the province of gold. The stats that you see here, the 24% of the national share of the population is in that province. It's the smallest province out of the 9th, yet it accounts for probably the highest in terms of density. 35 to almost 36 to 37% of South Africa's GDP comes out of that province. Over 56% of national share of R&D and patents are located in that province. And of course, 63% of national trade comes out of the Gauteng province, and so forth and so forth. Because of that, of course, industrialization, 30% of greenhouse gas emissions are emitted from that province. Now, underneath that, you'll see that there's a number of higher education institutions. So within the province of Gauteng, there's the biggest or the largest concentration of universities. Next to the park, the Innovation Hub, there's at least 4 universities actually, right? There's the University of Pretoria, which is right there next door to us. There is the CSR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, which is the largest science and technology research institution in Africa. It's right across the road from us. There is also 13 other national technology councils within, say, 13-kilometer radius from the park. Now, why I'm saying all of this is because the location of the park, we took pains in deciding the location of the park so that it's in proximity to all of these institutions, so that we can build synergies between ourselves and these institutions. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to is within our province, there are a number of legislations and policies that drives what we do, or that informs what the Innovation Hub does. The National Development Plan informs, by and large, most of what South African government does. In particular, the Gauteng Innovation and Knowledge Economy Strategy informs what we do, right? Now, there are 3 key pillars to that strategy. The first objective speaks to competitiveness of industry. Secondly, speaks to the issues of government service delivery, improvement of government service delivery, and of course the last leg speaks to the issue of social innovation, right? Now, why we need this policy is because the work we do gets informed by all of these policies. We felt it quite strong that in as much as we have other economic policies, there's a need to have a provincial innovation strategy, which is a coat hanger for all of the work that we do as the hub. Now, what is the Innovation Hub? The Innovation Hub is a science and technology park. It's a member of the International Association of Science Parks with headquarters in Malaga in Spain. We are the first African member of the park, of the ISP. We are located, as I said, next to the University of Pretoria and right next to the CSIR. You can see that's the picture of the hub. Okay, can I see that? Yes. That's the hub. It's about 60 hectares of land, which is part of the research farm belonging to University of Pretoria. Now, 32% of that land is developable. So currently the park is about 30 to or 32% developed. All right. By and large, the companies we have on the side are R&D companies. SAPI, which is South African Pulp and Paper. It's an international company, but it's a company originating from South Africa, from KwaZulu-Natal, was the first anchor tenant on the park. We are also, in the next 3 years, the park should be about 70% developed. We've been going out to recruit more and more R&D companies. Now, talking about R&D companies, I must say that when we started this park, I think we were also naive in believing that multinational companies will come flocking to South Africa. It's not the case. Multinational companies come into African countries largely to do to sell, and often their sales, the R&D gets done in their mother countries, and it's natural. I mean, so we went out to go and look for R&D companies from within South Africa, and I think we were successful in bringing on board our own countries, our own R&D companies. And I'm saying this because I'm sure there are other African counterparts here who have the same belief that your Microsoft and IBMs will come to your park. That's not the case. You've got to look for or generate your own cluster of companies from within your own countries. We focus on 3 areas: on ICT, smart industries. We focus on green economy. We also focus on bio. I've mentioned the issues around space. The key issues of our work around skills development. We also have programs around fostering of innovation. We've got enterprise development, which is largely incubation programs for the 3 different sectors. And then also there's issues around enabling spaces. This is the infrastructure and the environment. And of course the outcomes around creation of knowledge, workers, decent jobs, and so forth and so forth. Okay. Now that's an example of the skills program that we run. I mean, this is our rare skills program. The flagship program that we run is the Coach Lab program. We've been running this program for over 10 years in conjunction with industry partners. Cisco Systems, by the way, is a partner in that program, and our own R&D companies who are funding entirely this program. Okay, it's a 9-month program. It has 2 elements. It has technical skills training. It also has soft skills training. And when the students finish, assuming that they finish their postgrad as well, they are employed by these South African companies. We also have internship programs and learnership programs in green and in bioscience. Now, that's the enterprise development. The one at the bottom there is the one for biotech, and it's largely for pharmaceutical companies and agro-processing. Then we have climate, the Climate Innovation Center, which is a incubation program that we started in conjunction with the Finns, the government of Finland, and some of our own companies. This is largely around the companies that focus on climate mitigation technologies. Now, the MAXAM program is the incubation program largely for ICT companies. And then MLab is the mobile laboratory. It's also a Finnish initiative with our own Department of Science and Technology and the Innovation Hub. Okay. Egoli Bio is a biotech incubator belonging to the Department of the Ministry of Science, Ministry of economic development. It's a resident on our side. I'll try and rush off. Now, that's just a sense of the programs we run in the townships. Someone else was speaking about the startup weekends. We run startup weekends. We run in the townships. And these programs that we run in the township are satellite projects of the Innovation Hub Management Company, right? In other words, we are taking what we have in the park, we're going into the communities to set up incubation programs and innovation-related businesses. Okay, that's just a sense of the programs around ICT. We also have competition programs. We now use the elements or the platform of competition or innovation competitions as a way to go out into the communities and get the innovative companies to come into the Innovation Hub. Now, in the competition, 30% of the money is cash and 70% is seed funding. So for the companies that win in the competition, we bring them into the incubation program, and then they use the 70% money as seed funding. And then they can be able to top it up with our own funding in the program. Now, typically, the kinds of services that we offer companies in the incubator are things like intellectual property. We've got a team of intellectual property lawyers who help companies with patents. We also have a team of retired business people who are part of our mentorship program. We also offer market access. Companies that are in the incubator, we've linked up with the provincial government. We're using our own muscle of procurement, of government procurement, to offer market access for our own companies. The best way to grow your own startup companies. So that is a service we provide inside of the incubation program. And of course, there are others like marketing. They go into the TV. We also help them to access funding from a range of other funding sources. So that's just a sense of that. We also have a platform, the Open Innovation Solution Exchange platform, which we use as a low-cost R&D platform for mainly private sector companies. Okay, it's based on a US model, on the basis that companies that have challenges or government departments that have problems, we take those problems, we put them on the platform, and most of the people who come with innovative solutions, these are mainly small companies, right? And the platform is really, really becoming successful among most of our own South African companies who don't necessarily have funding for R&D. They use that platform for it. So that's just a sense of the some of the case studies coming out of the platform. This was SANSA, our space agency, with Airbus, and I think people were looking for data for Earth observations. Okay. This is a social innovation case study for a homegrown solution for anti-crime in the townships. It was a solution developed in the Innovation Hub. We've taken it out into the communities, and most people have embraced it. Okay. Now, I've got a few of our companies that I thought, let me just give you a sense of who comes out of these are not necessarily the best, but they give you a diverse sense of the technologies that are developed, you know, from high tech right up to the kinds of solutions that you and I could think about when we are having a shower. Okay. Unconventional media. The innovator's name is a guy called Sfiso. He's an investment banker. He decides he leaves his job. In South Africa, there are these people we call the Abu Machereza. They go out, drive around, they collect recyclable stuff, but they're very aggressive on the roads because they push these things and they sell them at the buyback centers. Okay. Now, Sfiso decides, no, hold on, I can help these guys, right? He then redesigns their trolley to be quite light, right? But even more importantly, he puts in other technologies into the trolley, GPS and so forth, and he goes out to companies that sells. For instance, companies that are promoting green, you know, Nedbank, Coca-Cola, and rebrands this. So whilst you're pulling your trolley, you're not only earning money from selling stuff at the buyback centers, but you are a mobile advertising. You could have thought about that. I mean, it's as basic as that. Okay. These two gentlemen, this is one of our companies coming out of the university. It's based on a research that they've been doing in the university for many, many years. It's a company now that's out of the incubator. They dealing with technology around bone regeneration technology, right? They extract from pig bone, right, BMP protein, which is then used for orthopedic surgeons for either injuries, bone injuries, but what in fact happens is a fracture that could take months and months to heal is hastened with this process. So it's one of our own cutting-edge technologies. The company currently exports to Brazil, and they also exports to the US market. That's the one for the community safety. Now, this is also another very interesting one. It's a young boy. He is a engineer. By the by, he works with the matatus in Kenya. The South African taxi minibus industry accounts for over 70% of the transport system in South Africa, right? It's a huge, okay. He develops an app, okay. The app, he's got an app for commuters, he's got an app for the taxi rank, he's got an app for the taxi owners. So with this technology, right, we are able to communicate with the commuters. We are also able to communicate with the taxi marshal, as well as the fleet owners of the taxis, who now real-time know where the taxis are at any one particular point in time. And this has, in fact, beginning to professionalize that industry. But the key thing around this is not the app, is the data, right? The key thing is collecting the data, which we are now using for the integration of the different modes, you know, the trains, the taxis, and other modes, all right? More Wallet is also another one, also based mobile, working with the Spaza. In South Africa, there's something called Spaza shops. He's connected the Spaza shops with the big dealers, here, Coca-Colas and so forth. Okay. Now, I just thought I should give you this example so that I think you have just a small little sense of some of the companies coming out of the hub. Now, lastly, let me say that since the inception of this program of the Innovation Hub, we've been able to work largely with other innovation hubs in South Africa. In, for instance, PE, in Cape Town. There are at least more than 20 hubs inside South Africa that are collaborating. Now, these are the tech hubs or business incubation programs. We also do work with Namibians, Kenyans, by the by, Kwanzaa City, and Nigeria, the Abuja Technology Village. Because of our association through the ISP, we had a responsibility to help set up new parks in the African continent. And then I must say that I think in the last 10 years, if I look at the last 15 years, there's been a lot of progress. In fact, I must say technology hubs or areas of innovation or incubation are in fact the way to go. Can I leave it at this? We'll take questions and answers. Thanks.
Ok. Muchas gracias. Más al final, te has ajustado muy bien al tiempo. Muchas gracias. Bueno, ahora vamos a dar la palabra a Nilda Silva, coordinadora de la Red Nacional de Incubadoras de Cabo Verde. Nilda. Switch. Okay.
Good afternoon. First of all, just to thank Casa d'Africa for the invitation. I think it's a privilege to be here and to be with our African peers. It's not usual. So I think that we will all try to take the most of this meeting. Just talking about the challenges for Africa in relation to the new technologies. I have prepared a presentation, but I think I will skip some of the some of the slides because of the time that we have. First of all, well, my name is Nilda, and I am coordinator of RENII, that is the national network of incubators in Cabo Verde. RENII is an initiative of the government through ADEI, that is the Cape Verdean Agency for Enterprise Development and Innovation. This project RENII began at 2011 with our first incubator, big business incubator center in Santiago's Island. And this project was, we had a grant from the World Bank and the African Development Bank. RENII, at this moment, since 2015 to this year, we have implemented five incubators in many of the islands, and we will be implementing the ICT incubator still this year, this month, so November. So we will be implementing the ICT incubator. So at this moment we have six implemented incubators, 2 in the tourism, 2 agribusiness, and 2 multisectorial. And then we'll have this other one, the ICT incubator. Just to talk just a little bit more about these incubators, I just like to say that the main challenge that we face in Cape Verde in relation to this project is that it's something new. We are a very early stage of entrepreneurship and incubation, and at this point, for instance, we have a set of programs that that is on national TV to explain what is incubation, what can they find there, so that we can really make people to go to the incubators, because it's not spontaneous at this point. For instance, to say that we have another challenge related with this open innovation. We don't have these laboratories or investigation center in relation with entrepreneurs, and we want, through the incubators, make this happen. For the the entrepreneurial week, we will be having 4 editions of Startup Weekend. That is one of the strategies that we are using, so that we really have incubatees in our incubators, because, as I said, it's not something spontaneous at this point for people to go to the incubators. So we have this point on the 4 edition, and we will be running several activities related to the entrepreneurial week. We do have some challenges related to the market access, and as the incubators are implemented in different islands, the idea is to make the network work so that the entrepreneurs can at least have these advantages of being in the RENII. And the idea is that if we have these tourism incubators in Sal Island or Boa Vista Island, and we have this agribusiness in Santiago or Santo Antão, so they can connect through the network of our incubators. As I said, it's a government initiative, but it had to be like that because no one was starting it. And at this point in Cape Verde, we have a high unemployment tax, and we have many graduated people. So we have to start this action of entrepreneurship. I was talking this morning with some of our peers here that we don't have this entrepreneur mindset in Cape Verde. And this is a big challenge because in order for us to take advantage of these new technologies, people must be entrepreneur so that they can come out of the box with great ideas and make them businesses. And this is our big challenge in Cape Verde that ADE is working through all these incubators to make this happen. I will just skip a little bit through the slides and just highlight some points that I think will be a challenge for the implementation of new technologies in Africa, for this case. Go through this. Here, just to mention that for sure ICT are in a great moment, and all governments are really paying attention and making all the creating all the infrastructure and policies so that they can really put their countries in this digital revolution. And through the Sustainable Development Goals, we can see that there are four of them that are and based on the 17 are in the four of the Sustainable Development Goals are included, have ICT included, and ICT are related to the achievement of at least 38 of the total targets defined. And one of the challenges that the Broadband Commission defined as a challenge was, as a target, was to make broadband a policy universal. And as we can see here, at this point, we have 151 countries with a broadband plan and 7 planning to introduce. And Cape Verde is among the seven countries. Another change is related to the information security, data security laws. And talking in relation to Cape Verde, we do not have many legislation about data security, privacy data. So this is really a point we can see here. Sorry. Okay. Oops. Just a minute. Well, I just wanted to show the graph that shows that in Africa, only 4 in 10 countries have some kind of privacy legislation. So this is still very low. We still have a way to go. Another challenge is to really to get people online. In Cape Verde, as in many Africa countries, most of people get to internet through mobile. But there still are some challenges in relation to it. In the less developed countries, for example, only 1 in 7 people will be online by the end of 2016. And more than half of a billion population of world population will still be offline. In relation to the internet user penetration, we can see here that Africa only have 25.1 points. And I can say that Cape Verde is beyond that point. We have achieved almost 60% of internet penetration, and that's a good result for us. And it has been growing since 2011. Here, just to show that most of people really, most of the users are from small screen mobile broadband. I think it's a reality that it's common in all Africa. almost 84%. Here, just to show the top 15 Africa region for the ID index, and we can see that the Mauritius leads the ranking with 5.41%. Cape Verde is in fourth place for the Africa region, but we have to see that the leader, the first one, only have 5.41% out of 10. So we do have a lot to work. And I think that's in the hands of incubators, of accelerator programs to help really the countries to achieve better points. We have this point, gender equality in access to broadband. I guess that in Cape Verde, I don't have data, that's for sure, that's my my opinion, what I feel. I think that we do not have this kind of problem, especially related to the process of a mobile phone, for instance. Maybe in relation to internet, it may be in some classes, some ages. I believe that there is no very good punctuation for Cape Verde, but in general, I think that we are okay. But I know that there are countries where this is an issue, and we must see, for example, in Africa, the difference for internet usage for men and women, being the pink women and blue men, we can see a difference about 60 something percent. So that's there might not be very, they are not the highest. The highest are for Arab states and Asian Pacific, but we still have to work some things about this issue. Here about the ownership of mobile phone, there are 202 million women, fewer women owning a mobile around around the world, and the most of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. That means something. And then, at least, but not the less, the other challenge is really to create an innovation ecosystem. In the Global Innovation Index 2016, Sub-Saharan African region has been outstanding for 4 times in the last 5 years. That's very good, but the challenge is to keep this momentum. So we have the other countries and the countries that are leading, that are considered to be the top innovators. For example, in sub-Saharan Africa, like Mauritius, South Africa, that here, Kenya. So we, the other countries, we must learn with them. We must have more meetings like this and see what they are doing, how they are doing, so that we all have the same level, and so that we all have the same, that we can say for sure that we are innovating in Africa. We must think out of the box, we must be challenged, and we must create more events like this so that we can share what have been doing in the other countries. Just to finish, say that there are countries that are in top, and then we are in Africa countries that are very, very low. So we must manage so that this discrepancy becomes, and the gap becomes more slower in relation to innovation, internet access, access to device, the cost of internet. For example, it's an issue in Cape Verde, the cost of internet, cost of devices. And all of this, for sure, is an obstacle for entrepreneurs to really take advantage of new technologies. I guess that's all for now. I don't know if I had some more minutes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nilda. Y para terminar, le vamos a dar la palabra a Kirui Kennedy, presidente del iHub de Kenia.
Sorry, I'm still waiting for the translation. Okay, so I'll start by introducing myself. And also, I don't have a slide, so you'll all have to watch me today and not the screen, which is good for me. My name is Kennedy Kirui. I work for this amazing organization based in Nairobi called the iHub. The iHub was set up in 2010. There's a photo. The iHub was set up back in 2010, and the concept is more of a community concept than an individual privately held organization. So the idea was to create a place that people in the tech ecosystem in Kenya could call their home. So for example, before the iHub was set up, if entrepreneurs in technology wanted to do something, they would have to have the event at a conference room in a hotel. If you wanted to run a startup competition, you'd have to do the same. So the iHub was created as part pre-incubator, co-working space, and an event space. And over the last 6 years, we've actually done a bit, and I'm going to talk a bit more about that in the afternoon on another session. So for this one, I'm going to focus a bit more on the challenges that we faced so far, and also talk a bit more about some of the things that we've done in that respect. If you look at technology generally in Africa, it's still a young market. Some of the oldest companies in our space would be about 10 years. In other industries, that would be really, really like a young company. But for us, 10 years it's a big company in tech. So one of the interesting things that happen in the Kenyan tech ecosystem and entrepreneurship in general in our space is that you'll realize that most of the people there are really, really young. So it's someone fresh out of college. They have this amazing idea that they really want to try. And they want to try it then because they still have the safety net. When you're a bit older, maybe you have a family, which you don't want to risk going to bed hungry, so you have to try it a bit earlier. And this will work out in the idea stage, but it quickly becomes a problem when you're trying to scale. So think of a young person who used to manage 4 people, never worked anywhere else before, and is now managing 40 people. So that's one of the things that we've noticed as a problem. We still have few experienced, seasoned guys in the space who can show the rest how to run companies in a proper way. We've gone out of our way to try and do more trainings around leadership, management, managing your team, growing the company, but scaling from both a management perspective and a talent perspective is a challenge. The talent aspect is, I think it's a bit global in the sense there's a bit of a shortage, especially for developer talent. So, for example, it takes about 3 months to recruit one developer in Kenya. If you're looking for a mid-level or a senior guy, you'll actually need 3 months to do that. And let's say you're looking for 6. Can you imagine how long it's going to take? Yeah, so, but I would really, really attribute that a bit more to the fact that it's a young and nascent ecosystem as opposed to, let's say, Silicon Valley, which has been around for a while. So probably that will get better with time. The other interesting issue that we've been facing is more from a legislative perspective. And I'll give an example. There's a local company in Kenya called BitPesa, and they are playing in the cryptocurrency space. And about 4 months ago, our CB, the central bank governor, they declared that cryptocurrency or blockchain is not recognized in Kenya. And I think it's more to do with the disconnect between, I'm not blaming the older people, let me just put out there. The fact that probably to him at this point it's still a bit risky. It's something that if it goes wrong might go with people's money. And we've also seen the same mentality with a bill that was drafted the other day. It was called the ICT bill, and basically what it tried to do was regulate how the industry works. The same way, for example, doctors are regulated. But if you're in the tech ecosystem, you know very well that regulation in a way tends to hinder innovation as opposed to promoting it. There was a lot of feedback on the same, and luckily we have a very good cabinet secretary who used to head Google previously and is really in tune with it, and they've been able to really push it back. Another challenge that we had still in the legislative space was more to do with access to information. So if, for example, your startup is built on maybe looking at government expenditure and how they're doing different things so that you can provide that to the public, there was no legislative framework to help you that. But we've been lucky. Just the other day, the access to information bill was passed, which makes it possible for you just to go to government, any government agency, and ask for their data. Okay, they might give it to you in PDF, but at least you have it. Maybe that's the next step. And so these are just things that happen over time. Eunice and our team, Eunice is actually here. These are the things that they are working on, especially from the legislative part. Another interesting challenge that we've been facing is more to do with tech adoption. We are very well known for M-Pesa, and it's easy to build M-Pesa kind of solutions that, for example, don't require people to install an app on their phone. It's something already there. So for the more complex solutions that you want to do it differently, it's a bit difficult. The population still hasn't gotten to that point where, for example, in Silicon Valley, if you created an app, you can quickly create a buzz around it and get people to download it. In Kenya, you will actually need to do a bit more than that. Luckily, especially government services have been going online and creating that culture of using web applications and mobile applications. A very good example is what we call eCitizen. eCitizen allows you to access government services online. So, for example, previously, if I wanted to renew my driving license or get a certain type of permit, I would have to go to the office itself, queue, and then go through the paper-based process to do it. And now I can just go to eCitizen and quickly do that instead of having to go to an office. Another example is something called Ijiji Pay, and this is now more to do with Nairobi itself. Nairobi, we have our governance system changed, so counties have been created and given more autonomy. So one of the big counties is called Nairobi. So instead of paying, for example, parking using cash, they've created an app that allows you to do that. And the interesting thing is that from a behavioral perspective, people are now more attuned to the concept of apps and web platforms. It's still new, but it's going in that direction. And more companies, tech companies, are latching on to this and doing more with that. The last two, I hope I'm not out of time. The other one is more to do with the infrastructure challenge. So a classic example is a local company called Sendi. Sendi is Uber for deliveries. In the sense, if, for example, I'm seated at my office and I want to send a package to someone, instead of using maybe just calling someone and then having them deliver it, or I going there, Sendi allows you to just, the way you get an Uber, you get a bike, a motorbike, they'll pick the package and deliver it to the location that you want it to be delivered to. And one of the main challenges that Sendi are facing is the lack of a proper addressing system. So basically you're trying to solve problems that ideally should not be solving, which becomes a big challenge. And this is something that even the e-commerce products in Kenya are having a hard time with. So if, for example, I go to Jumia probably the biggest e-commerce solution in Africa. They have a hard time finding out where I am because I don't have a unique address. I have to give directions like go up when you see the green shop and like that kind of thing, which is more from an infrastructure perspective than any other thing. Another example for that would be traffic jams. I mean, in as much as you can innovate around that, there is a limit. If there is traffic, unless you create something that flies over the traffic. Yeah, but that we haven't gotten there yet, which in a way hinders more innovation. The last one is more to do with funding, and there are two sides to funding. So one, we don't have enough startups yet that are investment ready. As I mentioned earlier, it's still a young market. So the guys who started out in the beginning, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they've had their 2 or 3 failures. They're on to something now that can grow and be invested in. But at this point in time, we don't have a critical number to attract a huge, like many people to actually look at it as a market that you can invest in. Hopefully, this is going to change in the next 2 or 3 years. And an aspect of that funding too is more to do with the fact that we're using strange technology. So a classic example is the payment ecosystem. I've talked about M-Pesa. The M-Pesa payment process is quite complicated by its nature compared to maybe Stripe, where I just put my pen, then that's it. M-Pesa, for the user and for the person delivering the solution, it's a bit of a challenge. So if, for example, you're pitching to an investor, they don't see why it should be that complicated and why people are not understanding it. So again, new technology and new challenges are contributing to all that. Yeah, that's it for me.
Ok, bueno, pues la verdad que nos han descrito los tres bastantes retos y desafíos que se están viviendo actualmente en el continente, bueno, en diferentes países, ¿no? Yo no sé si tenemos tiempo para un turno de preguntas, si en el público alguien tiene alguna pregunta que quiere lanzar, algún nuevo reto o desafío que se les pueda ocurrir que nos haya tratado. Yes, sí, aquí. Aquí.
Bonjour à tous, donc je vais parler en français. Moi, c'est Tijane Koita de la Mauritanie. J'ai une question dont vous n'avez pas parlé, peu. C'est par rapport aux défis générationnels. En fait, comment on fait pour intégrer des gens qui ont des âges différents au sein d'une entreprise qui est censée être novatrice, intégrer des personnes âgées à la gestion d'une start-up technologique? Comment ça se passe dans vos iHub ou dans vos Tech Hub, pardon. Merci.
Sorry. I would say there are two options. The first one is time. With time, more and more people understand technology. So think of it this way. My dad is on Instagram. I would have never imagined that. And to my future children, I'll be at a certain level. So with time, things get better. Like more and more people learn what the knowledge economy means, and then more and more opportunities in that space. The second way I would look at it is more from the roles perspective. I don't think technology is everything, in the sense there are other things that have to be done, not necessarily as a technologist, but through technology. So we've worked with quite a number of organizations that are kind of stuck in their way. And the thing that we really try to sell to them is to show them how it's convenient for them. So, for example, if you're doing a certain thing, let me use the driving license aspect. Typically, if I was to go through the traditional way of renewing my driving license, I would have to wake up really early, commute to the central business district, queue for about 3 hours, get there, and then it will take them maybe 10 minutes to stamp it, and then it's renewed, then go back in traffic and go home. But if I can sell to you the convenience and what value it means to them, then it's I think it's a better way of convincing people to do it than any other way. Any comment?
You want me to speak as an old person? Let me also give you an example with our own circumstances. I mean, I think when the Innovation Hub started, it was primarily old technology people who were, either who had left their own companies, who had either left the university to come into the hub, or who had been working for many, many years and decided to pursue a career in, as an entrepreneurs. Lately, in the M lab, I think the average age is 24. And in fact, generally, the hub has become much, much, much younger, right? And I think if anything, that is a sign of the times. I think going forward, we'll have more and more younger people. But I think coming back to your issue around how do you make old people adapt to new technologies, there are various ways. Sometimes structure drives behavior. And I think if you put in place a mechanism that makes people to use technology, they're forced to use it. My mom is 86 now. At least she SMSs. That's not bad. She can't go beyond that. It's voice and SMS. In China, I saw quite a number of people. I think when they introduce, they would take people from work would go into computer schools for basic computer literacy. But that's a structure that I put in place when they roll out services. In some of those communities. So I think it's a question of structure drives behavior. But I think maybe let me just take advantage of what you're saying and speak to one particular challenge. I made reference to market access in our circumstances, that there's an opportunity for companies, particular companies, startup companies, to access the market, the government market, via your procurement. Right? And I think it's a huge, huge market that we're not tapping into. I know it has its own problems in terms of supply chain in government is regulated. That's what's called, what do they call it? Single source. Single source. You call it single source in Kenya too. You've got to prove that you're the only person who has that specific solution. We're putting in place now a means of overcoming problems like that, where we negotiate with most government departments, we sign contracts with them, and we are able to put in a kind of like a supply chain process that validates our own technologies coming out of the Innovation Hub. So in that way, we get most of our own startup companies accessing the government market. We've got quite a number of companies with solutions in transport. Those we've been able to go to the transport department, they presented, then the department was able to select the technology that it wants. And so in a sense, we've parachuted them over the supply chain. So I'm just saying that it's a huge, huge opportunity, market opportunity that I believe we should tap into.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Yo quería hacer una pregunta. Concretamente, sé que la Red Nacional de Incubadoras de Cabo Verde es un proyecto apoyado por el gobierno de Cabo Verde, ya nos lo comentó Nilda antes, pero sí que, y quería hacer más extensivo la pregunta al resto de tech hubs que se presentaron con las iniciativas que se han llevado a cabo de Innovation Hub, iHub, el Akendewa, Yocolabs, han sido iniciativas apoyadas por los gobiernos de los países donde están situadas, y hasta qué punto entienden que el gobierno, que la administración pública está alineada con todo este movimiento de emprendimiento tecnológico, de apoyo a las startups tecnológicas. Lo lanzo, a ver si alguien se atreve. ¿No?
No, just to highlight a point here. In Cape Verde, the initiative is from the government, but the idea is to create all the conditions, and then in a few years that the incubators will be for private sector to run. But someone has to start in Cape Verde. It started with the government, otherwise we wouldn't have incubators till now.
For us, especially in the beginning, it was entirely a private sector thing, in the sense you tend to solve the problems that you feel the most, and at times waiting on someone to help you might not work. So in the beginning, and even speaking as iHub, we've actually never had any government support, but there are hubs beyond the iHub. So one of the hubs that we share the same building, it's called the NILAB, and it's more of a traditional incubator which takes companies and then works with them to grow them. Our government actually supported them by giving them money that they can invest into the startups. So from experience, I think it's more to do with creating that foundation and showing the way than trying to loop in government if you can. Yeah.
In our case, we've got a mix. I mean, the Innovation Hub is a private company set up by government. It's an interesting model because I think government recognized that, I think, to give agility, if you want a government service to be carried out by government, it's too slow. So create a private unit that has more agility, that can run faster, and they can negotiate and contract with private business. They set up a private company. So the incubator that we are running is it's an incubator belonging to a government. So it's a government-funded program. We don't take equity, but within the ecosystem, we've got a number of private incubation programs who take equity. And I see now lately also there are a number of other private incubations that are coming up from different countries. So it's mixed.
Maybe to add on to that, there is also the universities. So one of the bigger incubators in Kenya resides in a university called Strathmore, and for them it fits in more to creating that entrepreneurial and innovative culture within a university. A few other universities are trying the same, so it's kind of a mix of everything too.
Y los gobiernos están alineados, ¿entienden? Ay, sorry. ¿Ya? Ah, ok. Si quieres preguntar.
Si je voulais juste continuer à cette première question. Il semble qu'il y a notre ami d'Afrique du Sud a dit slow, it's too slow, or it would be too slow if there wouldn't be government support. Mais je crois qu'il faut vraiment différencier les stratégies et qu'à un moment donné, on a besoin aussi de temporalité. On a besoin de mettre des choses en place qui vont prendre du temps. On parlait tout à l'heure du capital humain, on parlait du mindset entrepreneurial. Et ça, c'est pas en 1 an ou en 2 ans, c'est une question de génération. Donc il faut que les stratégies elles soient diverses. Il faut effectivement qu'il y ait du retour sur investissement avec des incubateurs financés, subventionnés, qui vont chercher des compétences matures, qui vont chercher des gens qui ont des capacités de développer des solutions pour des marchés. Mais il faut aussi laisser se créer et se développer des environnements dans l'écosystème qui demandent plus de temps. Et je pense que les gouvernements, les décideurs doivent vraiment avoir une vision large de l'écosystème, avec à la fois encore une fois, hein, à la fois ce que l'on voit là, mais aussi alors évidemment, je prêche un peu pour ma paroisse, hein, pour Jocolabs, à Kendewa et ce genre d'espace, mais il faut vraiment avoir, je pense, cette vision multidimensionnelle sur la temporalité. Il y a des choses qui vont lentement, plus lentement, et si dans 20 ans, dans 10 ans, on veut que, et c'est notre souhait à tous, que l'Afrique, et avant, même 5 ans, quand je dis temporalité, en fait, je ne parle pas de 20 ans, hein, je parle de 5 ans. Mais là, c'est vrai qu'il y a des investissements qui semblent parfois faits un peu à court terme.
¿Van a responder o...?
No, pregunta.
Vale, ¿en inglés o en español la pregunta? En español. Yo trabajo en una empresa de ciberseguridad aquí en Canarias y es un tema que veo que la tecnología está creciendo, pero no sé si se han mencionado los desafíos que tenéis, sobre todo gente que está empezando en tecnología, cómo se está enfrentando contra cibercriminales y contra este tipo de amenazas que creo que en África está empezando a crecer bastante. Y quería saber cómo se enfrentan ustedes contra ese desafío.
Hola. As I said, in Cape Verde, we do not have many legislation. We still do not have many legislation on that. It's an issue for sure. And on the other hand, we do not have many business in ICT. We will be implementing ICT Incubator this year, and hopefully we will have lots of startups starting with these ideas. But it's something that we are thinking of, because it's it can really put countries and entrepreneurs in troubles. As sorry, your name, I can't pronounce this. Kirui. This company that was not recognized. You said earlier that you had a company that was not recognized because of the, I don't remember the name of the company. Sorry? Yeah, see.
Bit person.
Yeah. So we have this problem. We will have companies, and then we will try to solve the problem, and because we do not have legislation for that, it's an issue. Yes.
Two parts to it: the legislative part, and I'll let Eunice. She's better positioned to talk about that. She works under the Ministry of ICT, so that falls squarely under her. For the second part, we've already seen movement in that space, in the cyber security and that kind of thing. In fact, we have an annual conference called Africa Hackon, which basically brings together security experts, and now there is a budding ecosystem of guys in that space offering it as a service. So if, for example, I'm building a system that allows people to trade online, I have to work with them to make sure that from a security perspective I'm covered. So that has grown. Maybe 4 years ago we didn't have that, so we were a bit more vulnerable, but now it's getting better. So maybe Eunice can talk about the legislative aspect of it.
Right. For the laws to sort of govern information security, cybercrime, and related issues of technology businesses, the government has developed an information security, including cyber security policy and strategy, and those are driven by the regulator, who is the Communication Authority of Kenya, but implemented in part by ICT Authority, my organization. And what that legislation, it's a living document. It's constantly under review, because this space is one of the most innovative spaces or aspects of ICT, cybercrime, information security, and so on. And that strategy seeks to bring together key players, and the financial sector is one of those most affected. I'm just singling that one out because fintech is big in Kenya. The telcos, very big in Kenya because of mobile money. So in developing that strategy, we bring the players, the stakeholders to the front. They are the ones who experience the challenges firsthand. So this is I think the single most important thing I want to say is that it is a living document that requires review very frequently. The governing body in government draws from both the security arms of the government, the defense arms of the government, the army, the police, everybody in the security, as well as the technology players and the stakeholders, in order to make sure that there is a universal approach to protecting the country. But tied to that is a public key infrastructure initiative that we are driving to ensure we have digital signatures. And the whole idea is basically to track. And that way empower the judiciary to be able to prosecute. I think I just want to say that. But on the subject of the Innovation Hub in South Africa, which I admire in the sense that the government has created a private body to do this work. I wanted to cite an example in Korea. The company that it's called TK, which is Telecommunications Korea, is a private company. And that private company was invested by the Korean government to innovate around telecommunications. But it has given birth to Samsung, LG, we all know these brands. And so it goes on to say there is a critical role the government has to play to promote research, one, support research, two, by giving test platforms. Innovators must be given a platform to pilot their products so that they can get the mistake and improve some more. That is what Korea did. Third, procurement or consumption by the government is absolutely critical, and I think the Gauteng example has really gotten it right. I will be taking some lessons home. For Cape Verde, I'm learning to pronounce correctly, you have a golden opportunity because you don't have legislation today. Technology can lead, the innovators can lead the way, the government will come later, sealing all the potholes, but by that time, the innovators have a green field to be able to experiment. The beauty is that they don't have to make the same mistakes that other countries have made because you can learn from other countries' mistakes. And finally, something I've been wanting to say, the question of why in Kenya the mobile money innovation took off, because it puzzles everybody. Every country I go to, everybody interested in Kenya I speak with says, how is it that you got it right? And really, I want to believe mobile money came to Kenya and found a real need. It is very difficult for mobile money solutions to work in a country where there's no real financial inclusion need. In Kenya, there was a real financial inclusion need, and Kenyans were really, really waiting. Plastic money was not working, all these other, they were not working. So as countries continue to want to adopt mobile money, they really have to say, how do they tie up the mobile money solution with real pressing problems in their countries, and it will take off. Thank you very much.
Gracias. ¿Alguna pregunta?
Je voulais parler par rapport à la question du monsieur sur la sécurité du point de vue des entrepreneurs, en fait, des entreprises et tout. Actuellement, ce n'est pas forcément pour un jeune qui débute, au fait, une priorité. Parce que si, pour penser à la sécurité et tout, c'est quand tu commences à réussir et tout, que tu peux commencer à te dire, OK, il faudrait maintenant penser à la sécurité. Mais la façon dont on voit la sécurité en Afrique, ce n'est pas la même chose que dans d'autres pays plus avancés. Parce que si ton projet ne décolle pas encore, tu vas pas, les problématiques, la façon d'aborder chaque situation est différente. Donc, tout ce qui est sécurité, données personnelles et tout, ça n'a pas la même importance dans des contextes où les réalités sont différentes. Et quand on prend même des entreprises qui sont dans la fintech, au Sénégal, par exemple, il y a une entreprise qui s'appelle Wari. Donc, c'est du transfert d'argent sous-régional et tout. Et ils sont actuellement présents dans plus de 30 pays sur le continent. Eux, ils ont atteint un niveau de maturité où tout ce qui est aspect sécurité, contre des attaques pirates, des trucs comme ça, devient une priorité pour eux. Et quand tu atteins ce niveau-là, tu as beaucoup plus de moyens d'aller vers des experts et tout. Mais pour la plupart des entreprises, ce n'est pas vraiment encore une priorité et tout. Mais il y a le volet étatique où, comme la dame du Kenya l'a dit, qu'il faut des lois en place et tout. Mais côté entrepreneur, ce n'est pas vraiment une priorité au début. Oui.
Okay, Marcy.
I have a question. This is a table on challenges, but this morning I'll ask something about opportunities also. This morning we talked about that Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook was in iHub recently. Yesterday our general director talked about a USA Today piece on the big opportunities in tech sector in Africa is keeping American technology companies' attention, all this kind of narrative. But my question is, are you seeing that really as an opportunity? Are they just looking for traffic? How are you dealing with this?
I guess that's addressed to me. Okay, so there are two ways to look at it, the negative way and the positive way. For Zuckerberg to come to Kenya and Nigeria, definitely was there for the Facebook's interest. Is not being nice or that kind of thing. Is just doing that thing. Like they want to grow in that market because they haven't been really big in that market yet, or rather there are more opportunities in that market. So the way we look at it, it's in a way validation of what we're doing. The fact that the global giants are starting to notice that there is a market in Africa and they're really, really flocking to that market. So as an entrepreneur, the idea is to make sure that if, for example, I'm competing with Facebook, I don't know if anyone is, I should have a unique value proposition that will ensure when Facebook shows up, I'm not dead. Yeah, so it's just a good thing, especially now when you start looking for funding and that kind of thing. The people who tend to invest most in Kenya are American-based VC firms or impact investors, and the more they know about the market itself, by having high-profile visits like Zuckerberg, the better for us. So in general, it's good for us. You just have to be careful and make sure that your interests are also taken care of. Yep.
Can I add my 2 cents piece to this issue? At the beginning of my presentation, I made a point about research, R&D companies locating to our park. I made a point that I think we were naive in believing that R&D companies would run into our park. And I'm saying this with the benefit of hindsight, because that's a fact. And I think the African countries must know that that's the fact. And I think the issue is you would have interest from all quarters. I mean, we were pursued by IBM, we flirted with Microsoft, we flirted with just about every big corporation. But in the end, what they put up in our account was not exactly what we wanted. Right? Hence my point about that you go to grow a critical mass of your own companies if you want to talk R&D. Now, having said that, let me come back to the issue about collaboration and how I see it. a number of European countries are interested in working with African countries. I think for a number of reasons. I believe that Africa is the next wave of innovation. A case in point is, for instance, the Finns put in a lot of money, particularly in mobile, in South Africa. They set up the mobile lab, and they were very upfront about it. Yes, we believe that this is the future. There will be technologies coming out of there which are of interest to European countries. How we see the collaboration going forward, it's in a win-win situation in that we encourage, and we do have soft landing programs where we encourage European companies to come and work with us. And the approach we take is of joint development, that there is a bigger market in South Africa. There's also a bigger market beyond South Africa that we can tap into. And I think to tap into that market, we've got to be able to find South African companies that you can jointly work with, right? It's not a simple case of throwing technology and hoping that it sells. But I think finding partners who can enhance the technologies that you have, and I think in partnership with them, going forward to conquer the markets in African countries. And I think, and we've tried some of that formula and it works, all right? And I'm talking about the Chinese, and I'm talking about a range of other countries who have interest. I just think that we've got to develop a way, a common understanding of how do we talk about partnerships.
Ok, ¿alguna otra aportación, pregunta? Yo creo que nos hemos quedado con... ¿Sí? Sorry.
Okay, it's in English. Just last question quickly. I would like to ask Kirui from iHub. I was in Kenya last year, and I decided to visit the iHub. I don't know if you remember. That was when there was an internet.org thing Facebook was bringing. I just have a quick question. I'm very impressed by what's happening in Kenya. What would you recommend for a new country in terms of tech? I mean, what would you recommend? Which mistake have you done when you were starting? I mean, I don't know if you see the question exactly. So, obviously, we in the same situation in terms of we started without, let's say, the partnership with the direct partnership with the government. So I was just wondering, what would you recommend, like, in terms of the process from the beginning till? Okay, thank you.
That's a really hard question, but I'll give it my best shot. So I would basically recommend two key things. The first one, so I mentioned earlier that we tend to build solutions for the problems that we face. So, for example, the Kenyan market has a population of around 40 million people. So even when you conquer that entire market, I don't think you're still successful enough. So the first recommendation is, in as much as you're building for the local market, you need to get to a point where you can build a solution that can scale beyond that. So if mobile money is a really, really good example. Granted, it has made a lot of money in Kenya. It's really, really struggled to go into other countries. They've tried it twice in South Africa, and they've finally given up. So that's an example of something that will never really, really go global because it's for that market. So to the startups and the entrepreneurs that we work with, we usually challenge them to think a bit bigger term, like, what happens after I conquer this market? So get people to think big in the beginning, not just look at it from, fix this small problem here. If you want to make it like one of the big pillars of your economy, it has to be a global solution. The second part to it would be more to do with what you said, working with government. I think it's very, very valuable and important that you work with government. Government is supposed to help you succeed. So trying to always go around it isn't the best approach. And I'll give the example of when Apple Pay launched. One of the first things they did was to make sure that you could, for example, use Apple Pay to to pay when going into the park. So getting government to be more of your consumer is a really, really good way to reach a wider market. So, for example, if I had a solution that allowed people to do a certain thing with the government, it will create a significant customer base for me if I work with government. If I can lobby government to change certain rules that make it almost impossible for me to do something, then I'll gain more traction. So I would go with those two. Work closer with government, and then think global but build local. Yeah.
Ok, ¿alguna otra pregunta? Vale. Pues como estaba comentando, creo que nos hemos quedado con una idea bastante clara de cuáles son los retos y desafíos que se enfrentan las nuevas tecnologías en África actualmente. Me habían pedido hacer un resumen, pero creo que vamos un poquito justitos de tiempo, no lo haré. Así que muchísimas gracias por vuestra atención.